On your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, 81 points against the Nets?
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, December the 22nd, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors for 12 seasons on various platforms. Come on my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server where right now people are spiraling. Come and join them, will you? It's 100% free to join. Link in the description of the podcast as always. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season and postseason long. And we're off and running here on a Monday edition of the show where we are talking about the single most upsetting, concerning, dire weekend of Raptors hoops we've watched all season long. Yeah, was not pretty. You lose to the Celtics 112-96 on Saturday in a game that was close, nip and tuck, good defense, some nice stretches from the Raptors, and then they completely just kind of like give up the rope entirely in the fourth quarter and get run off the floor by Peyton freaking Pritchard. Awesome. And then Sunday against the Brooklyn Nets, they lose 96-81. They score 81 points against the Brooklyn Nets. The 7-19 coming into last night, Brooklyn Nets, the team that gives Michael Porter Jr. all of the shots, who, yeah, he's been great with it, but also it's Michael Porter Jr. as the best player on a team. You should, even with guys out of the lineup, no RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl playing a total of 6 minutes. We'll get to that later. You just should not be scoring only 81 points against the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets should not be the holders of the NBA's title for lowest offensive rating allowed to a team in any game this season, which is true. The Raptors 82.7 offensive rating last night, 0th percentile on cleaning the glass among all games this season. The worst offensive game any team has played all year long. And yeah, we're going to get into the offense just having no shot. We'll get into the good, the bad, and the from the weekend that was. But really, I think we should just kind of soak in this nasty weekend a little bit off the top. Like, you give up 96 points on the defensive end of the Brooklyn Nets, that should be a game you're winning by 30. Instead, you put up the worst offensive outing that anyone has put up all season long. The Celtics without Jaylen Brown, look, they're a well-coached team. Derek White's doing the thing. Peyton Pritchard's figured out his sort of efficiency issues from earlier on in the season. Like, you should not be losing by 16 points to the Boston Celtics without Jaylen Brown if you kind of fancy yourself a contemporary of the Boston Celtics. Even without Jakob Poeltl, even without RJ Barrett, like, didn't get enough from Scottie Barnes, didn't get enough from really like the Triforce of Nothingness you're getting out of Ochai Agbaji, Gradey Dick, and Jakob Poeltl right now. Walter was a minus 29 in 15 minutes in that game. How? What? Gradey Dick, 0 for 2 from 3, continues the story. Like, it's just a lot of stuff not clicking right now for the Raptors. And it's been pretty dejecting considering you come out of the break and you play the Miami Heat last Monday and beat them in like a really encouraging way. And you think, okay, slate's wiped clean. Everything's good now. Then they play the Bucks and they win in kind of underwhelming fashion. It's like, okay, well, it's a win. A win's a win's a win. These two games over the weekend, I think it is pretty clearly as dire as things have felt all season long. If you're the type of person who spent the last month poking holes in the validity of their 13-1 stretch during November, this Monday morning is for you, my friends. Bask in it. Enjoy how right you were, or how right it seems like you were. I am not quite there. Shocker, me, the guy who is never as fully reactionary as the rest of the fan base, is like, I still think this is, again, big picture, a 17-13 team that was never expected to be like an Eastern Conference contender. They looked like it for a hot second out of the start of the season. I think that was always going to come back to earth a little bit. And to be 17-13 with a top 10 defense and some other good things going, like Scottie Barnes looking how he has outside of this weekend, and some other stuff that you've got cooking for you, I think, there's clearly issues. Things need to be fixed. This is not the final version of this team, but as a step forward from the last couple of years, I think it is still on track to be a successful year in that regard. But maybe you think they're 17-13 going on 35-47. And again, if this weekend is, sort of fresh in your mind and you watched the full slate of these games over the weekend, I can totally understand if you are going to more of the doomer end of things right now. Of course, things are never as bad as they seem when they're at their absolute nadir. And I do think there's a good chance that the game against the Nets goes down as like their rock bottom. I mean, it can't get much worse than that. It's the Brooklyn Nets. You lost 96-81. You lost by like a 2004 NBA score to the Brooklyn freaking Nets. I think it could go down as, something akin to their New Year's Eve loss to the Celtics by 10 million points last year, where, that happened. It felt like, oh God, this team's never going to win again. And then they actually had a pretty solid next stretch of the season once they got some guys back. And it does seem as though they're getting close to getting RJ Barrett back. Could be as soon as tomorrow against the Miami Heat. That would be lovely to see. We'll get into how he might help the offense, though certainly he can't be the only guy that's like his absence can't be the only thing dragging down this offense right now. No one player is that impactful unless you're like Nikola Jokic. Maybe RJ Barrett is wing Nikola Jokic. Who's to say? But don't think that's quite the case. And, look, it's easy to sort of look around and say, wow, the Raptors are an embarrassment. They had these two nasty losses. Like, they're not the only ones in this boat either, right? And it's not like you want to be lumped in with the Hawks and the Cavs and the Heat of the world, considering their recent struggles. But, like, those teams are struggling too. The Raptors did bank a lot of wins early on and showed that there is a higher water level they can reach. And when you get RJ Barrett back and maybe some sort of pre-deadline shuffling takes place, maybe there's a way to recapture some of that magic. And look, I don't think they're going to go and be this team that's beating up on the best teams in the NBA. That's not the bar to clear this year. If that's the bar for you, then yeah, you're going to be really disappointed. You're going to want to see heads roll. You're going to want to see change. I don't think that is the bar you can measure this team by. And I do think they are going to stabilize at some point here. But again, if you are looking at it coming off of this weekend of games, I do not begrudge you or blame you if you think, oh God, there's something rotten in the well here and it's not going to get turned around. I'm not quite there, but certainly I can see the vision if that is in fact your view of things. And look, this weekend, I think really the sort of through lines of this weekend, Scottie Barnes, probably his two worst games of the season. Not terribly concerned about it overall. He's been fantastic all year long, but I do think it might be a bit of a symptom of him and Brandon Ingram just being spread so thin right now, having to do everything to drag this team to wins. And look, it's natural, right? Like you keep having to carry your coworkers at work, and eventually you're going to have a little less to give over time. And so, yeah, like, do I think Scottie Barnes' season is fully derailed after these two games? Absolutely not. Does he have to be better for the Raptors to have a chance to win? 100% he does. And I'm sure he knows that too. The other thing, I mean, the guard play just continues building off of Friday's podcast. The guard play continues to be a disaster. Immanuel Quickley's game against the Celtics has to go down as maybe his worst game as a Raptor. 3 points, 1 of 12, 1 of 7 from deep. Like, I don't mind a guy missing threes. That's going to happen sometimes. Going 0 for 5 from 2 and just continuing his struggles with creating advantages from a standstill. We'll get into that a little bit more coming up in a sec as we talk about how the offense can get fixed. But that was a really concerning stretch of games from Quickley over the weekend. It's not been a resounding first 4 games out of the chute for him since the break after the NBA Cup. And then I mentioned the Triforce of Nothingness, Ochai, Gradey, Walter. Like, what are you getting from those guys right now? Not a whole lot. And that is just like laying bare how badly they miss RJ Barrett. It's tough stuff. And look, development's not linear. All this stuff doesn't mean these guys are going to stink out loud always, but I do think this past month has probably done more damage to Gradey and Jakobi standing within the franchise than it has to anybody else. And I'm curious to see sort of what the Raptors, if you gave them truth serum, what their view on those guys would be now after this stretch where they needed at least one of them to really pop, and no one has taken advantage of the opportunity presented by RJ being out. It's just like not a lot going super well right now. The offense is completely, seemingly broken beyond repair. That things can change quick. RJ Barrett can come back. The equilibrium could be restored. The team could be very good on offense, but there's some other stuff stacking up against that, including the absence of Jakob Poeltl, which who knows what it's going to be now after playing just 6 minutes over the weekend. We're going to talk about that. The offense, what they can do to get more out of it, what RJ Barrett's going to do, and whether this Poeltl thing just threatens to sap their offensive juice all season long. All season long. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again, channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks, ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all in one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Today's show is also brought to you by Doer. And look, I have told you plenty about my Doer jeans. I love them. They are super comfortable. I had a holiday party over the weekend. Guess what I wore to that holiday party? It was my Doers, because they are fit for all occasions. They are casual. They are loungy. They are also very at home in a party setting. They just look fantastic. They have the classic jeans wear style, along with the comfort that you get from the wonderful performance denim that they have developed and created at Doer. And again, a wonderful thing to have on during the holidays, or a wonderful thing to buy for someone who you love, who's very particular about their pants during the holidays as well. It's time for you to experience the Doer experience. I know you're going to love them, because I love them too. I have the black fleece-lined taper Doers, and they are just wonderful. And you can check out their store in Toronto at 44 Ossington Avenue. Go check it out. Use the promo code LOCKEDONToronto in store at checkout to get 15% off your first order, or you can check them out online at doer.ca/LockedOnToronto for 15% off. That's doer.ca/LockedOnToronto for 15% off your pair of jeans. It's time to go get some pants with Doer. Go check them out. All right, we continue on here, picking apart a very nasty, no good weekend for your Toronto Raptors against the Celtics and the Nets. Two teams I just hate losing to also. Just adding insult to injury. Maybe the two teams I hate losing to the most, and back-to-back. And look, we should say, there was reporting about the mechanical issues the Raptors had on their plane going from Boston to Brooklyn. It was a back-to-back with a less than 24-hour turnaround time. Like, these things do matter. There is something to it. Sleep is important. It's something the Raptors have been very keen on, sort of optimizing sleep as a way to get the most out of the team. And on a night where you lose sleep because of factors out of your control, that's not ideal, but also it's the Brooklyn Nets, and you should probably do better than scoring 81 points in the Brooklyn Nets, no matter how much sleep you've had. And so, yeah, it just kind of adds to, even if there are sort of baseline reasonable explanations for some of this stuff, it doesn't quite paint the whole picture of why things have gone so poorly here. Now let's turn our attention to the offense, which is right now completely dead in the water. They've just lost all the juice, all the verve, all the side to side, all the stuff that made this a top 5 half-court offense, a top 5 offense overall for a time in the first month and a half of the season. It's just all dissipated. They are now 17th in the league per clean the glass after hovering around top 5 for the first month. They're dead last in the NBA in offense since RJ Barrett went down 13 games ago. Again, shocking to me that RJ Barrett is this important, because very few players on planet Earth are seemingly this important. The difference between a top 5 offense and the literal worst offense in basketball. But maybe that's something we should just be branding RJ Barrett as the single most important offensive player in basketball. That, or there's some other stuff kind of rotten here. And I do think the Poeltl thing is like a full-on 3-alarm fire for the Raptors at this point. Doesn't play on Saturday. Fine. First night of a back-to-back. He's been doing the back-to-back thing. Didn't play the Bucks game. Not great, but okay. Like, maybe he'll play one of these halves. And then, okay, the word comes out. He's playing Sunday against the Nets. Great. Nice boost. A guy who didn't play on Saturday. Maybe some fresh legs for the game against Brooklyn. He plays 6 minutes and then is done for the night, and is, I guess, going for imaging per Darko Rajakovic today to get a further idea of what's going on with his back. And it's just like, look, I have maintained, and I still believe this, that the Toronto Raptors are way more equipped to survive without Poeltl this season than they have been in the past. You're getting some good minutes from Mamu. He was excellent in the game against the Celtics, for example. You're getting some good minutes from Colin Murray-Boyles here and there as well. He's a rookie. It's up and down, but I think he's providing you plenty, rebounding-wise, defense-wise, etc. But it's really, I think, the Poeltl injury is not just having an impact on the center position. It's having a clear impact on Immanuel Quickley as well, who again had maybe his worst game as a Raptor on Sunday. A little better, on Saturday, a little better on Sunday against the Nets, but like 5 of 16, that's no good. 2 of 6 on twos, he's got to be better than that. 3 of 10 from deep overall. You just need more out of Quickley. Like that he took 10 threes, that's great, but just like not nearly enough accuracy from him. And again, like I can make peace with guys having nights where they're just like not hitting threes, but it's when you're not doing a whole lot else, you really have to be hitting your threes to impart yourself on the game. And look, Quickley does the playmaking stuff to an extent, and I know the 10 assists, like a lot of those are not sort of classic advantage created assists. I do think you look at the numbers, he's improving his rim assist stuff, his high leverage assist stuff this year, but that's mostly coming out of pick and roll, which is the thing of part of his game that has just completely been erased with Jakob Poeltl being hurt. This is, I think, like correlation, causation, like Poeltl going out, I think has directly led to Quickley just being a less effective player, because Immanuel Quickley, by every metric, is a good pick and roll guard. He can run pick and roll for you. He's, I think, shown a lot more craft this year, both as a scorer and passer out of pick and roll. I think the floater coming back has been a really key weapon to his pick and roll attack. And the numbers paint him as like a very, very good pick and roll player. He runs most of the team's pick and rolls. 65% of the pick and rolls the team has run have been run by Quickley so far this season per synergy. And as a just pure scorer, just on his own shots coming out of pick and roll, 87th percentile in points per possession in the NBA, just as a shot maker out of pick and roll. That's great. As a pick and roll ball handler, when you factor in passing, either his shots or the shots that come out of direct passes from Quickley and pick and roll, the Raptors are killing it. They're a 92nd percentile offense in those possessions. And among all of the players in the NBA, among the top 50 players in the NBA in total pick and rolls run, Immanuel Quickley ranks number 1 in points per possession, both off of his shots and passes in those possessions. It's not super high volume compared to others. He's not Cade Cunningham. He's averaged like about 9 pick and rolls run per game. The league leaders are well over 20. But he's among the top 50 guys running pick and rolls. Quickley is the single most efficient guy at a points per possession basis. That's well and good, but when you don't have your number 1 screener and pick and roll partner available, that part of your game just kind of goes away. And we've seen that play out here over the last handful, where Quickley is very good at using a screen to get into the teeth of the defense, uses quickness to turn the corner. That's all great, but when you don't have a screen and you're not running heavy pick and roll because your best pick and roll partner is not there, you've seen just way too much of Quickley getting the ball, one dribble, realizing, I can't get a step on this guy, I'm just going to pass it off, or just like not even trying to drive at all. And that has just completely sapped the juice out of Quickley's game. So much of what he does is just that frenetic downhill energy in pick and roll as a good drive and kick guy, as someone who can get to that floater basically whenever he wants, and he's been hitting it like gangbusters this season. That part of the offense has just been totally erased, and that was one of the most efficient parts of the Toronto Raptors offense, was Quickley run pick and rolls. Obviously, you're missing RJ Barrett's drives, you're missing RJ Barrett's rim pressure. All of that stuff is a big part of what's missing here too, but RJ Barrett coming back is not going to suddenly revitalize the Immanuel Quickley pick and roll experience, because Jakob Poeltl's not playing. And we don't know when he's going to play again after last night and going for this imaging. And that's a real concern. I think there are ways they can incorporate more pick and roll into Quickley's game without Poeltl. They barely run any Scottie Quickley pick and roll. I think that's something they could probably do a little bit more. It does seem like they've just kind of like gone away from running pick and roll at all with Quickley not having Poeltl to work with. I think there are guys they can do with. Colin Murray-Boyles, I think, is a good pick and roll player, or at least coming along. He's a solid screener, might be the second best screener on the team. That might be helpful for Quickley. Maybe some Mamu pick and pop stuff to kind of spread out the floor a little bit, but Mamu's not himself a very good screener. Scottie's only an okay screener. It's a real hit to one of the sort of baseline things that Immanuel Quickley does. And now you're just looking at him just kind of looking lost as an advantage creator, because he's not someone who's just going to go and take random guys off the bounce and drive 100 times a game and get into the teeth of the defense. Like, he needs that screen to help him get going. And yes, that's part of his limitation, but also pick and roll is like a pretty big component of NBA basketball. And so if you have someone who's very good at it, that's great. But when one half of that partnership is just not available, you're just seeing the bookends of the Raptors starting lineup, both just giving you not a whole lot. And so that's a big reason the offense is falling off. The 3-point shooting, Gradey Dick he's got to be a better 3-point shooter for this team to have success. Same with Jakob Poeltl. I feel like Jamison Battle hasn't hit a 3 since the Cleveland game. He comes in and you're expecting him to hit threes over the weekend. Jamison Battle just not getting anything to fall. 0 of 3 from deep. He plays, only 12 minutes yesterday, 6 minutes the night before, only 18 minutes, but he's got to be getting more than three threes up in those 18 minutes. And those got to start to fall because it's been a little while here since Battle had one of those games where he kind of shifted the tide by hitting his threes. It's been great to see Brandon Ingram's threes come along. Scottie Barnes has fallen off a little bit from 3 in sort of concert with that. Ochai Agbaji shooting 19% from 3 and has somehow been the best of the Triforce of Nothingness between him and Dick and Walter. It's just, there's all these things that I'm not sure RJ Barrett's just going to instantly fix. He will fix some stuff for sure. He'll make things easier for Ingram, for Barnes, and he will help them get easier looks at the rim. His drives will help them, create paint pressure more often than they're not going to be the last ranked offense in the NBA once Barrett comes back. But with Poeltl being out, with Quickley being diminished because of Poeltl being out, and the other guys off the bench just not providing much, I don't think I really see a top 5 offense with this group once Barrett's back. He's not going to fix everything as much as he'll fix some things. And so, yeah, you just kind of look around and wonder, where's the fix come from? And maybe that is, what the priority has to be over the next month and a half before the trade deadline is seeking out guys who can help supplement with this offense and kind of make it so they can survive without being at full tilt. Again, there's an element of everyone struggles a little bit when their best players are out. That's just kind of how it works. But the degree of the drop off has been really concerning. And I think RJ Barrett's going to help some, but he's just not going to be the guy who's the be all end all fix for this. And they need some fixes. They need some extra guard play. They need, just any extra shooting juice off the bench from these guys who are supposed to be ostensibly good shooters. Walter, Dick, Battle, Jamal Shedd's 3-point shot has fallen off a cliff too. And so maybe they got lucky early on in the season and they were shooting way above their heads. Maybe they're shooting way below their standard levels right now. Maybe things will even out. And I do tend to think that's the case. In some of these instances, this is what happens. Shooting is weird. You have to look at a gigantic sample to have it normalized. You're going to have micro pockets where you're hot and you're ice cold, and you will find your level at some point. But, it's a pretty serious threat right now. The Raptors offense is just totally out of ideas. There's lack of movement. There's too many possessions where it's dumped into a guy and 4 guys are standing around watching. It's just probably partly the toll of not having all your guys too. And that just kind of piles up and makes it harder for everybody. But yeah, the offense is in dire straits right now. We're going to come back on the other side, get into the good, the bad, and the from the weekend. I do want to highlight the good, which is, as much as everything's been ugly and awful on the offensive end, the defense is kind of holding up its end of the bargain. We're going to get to that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That is why live bets are so exciting on FanDuel. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets on the action as it unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up as well. And you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. Maybe your favorite team is not bound for the playoffs this year, but you can keep yourself engaged in the action with some live bets on the games that are going on and have some fun that way. It's always a nice thing to have a little money on the games as you're going through the holiday season, hanging out with people as well. It's never a bad thing. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Wrapping things up here on your Monday edition of Locked On Raptors with the good, the bad, and the So we wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. In this case, 2 basketball games. Thing I liked, thing I didn't like, and thing that's got me a little intrigued from the latest in Toronto Raptors hoops. The good, I am going to say the defense. As much as the offense has completely let them down over this last month, the Toronto Raptors defense is kind of holding strong and giving them at least a shot in some of these games. Again, like you give up 96 points to anybody in the modern NBA and you're cooking, except when you score 81 points of your own, you completely undercut your own defensive effort. And I thought in the game against the Celtics, yeah, they lost a little bit in the fourth quarter, but for the most part, just like a very tight, well-played defensive game from both teams. And I thought the Raptors were very much game for that tete-a-tete with the Celtics on the defensive end. And, you know, Scottie Barnes, obviously a big part of it. He's incredible. Even when he's having a bad offensive game, he just is like a walking possession saver on the defensive end. I think their point of attack defense has been mildly better. And all told, like they're 9th in defense since RJ Barrett went down. They still have a top 10 defense this last month where they're 5-8 without Barrett. The offense is completely cratered. The defense is holding strong. They're the number 6 defense in the league over the last 2 weeks per clean the glass. And, you know, they're not like totally holding up against the very, very best offenses. They're 20th in defensive rating against top 10 offenses per clean the glass. You know, I think, you know, they're like one good game out of 10th. It's a very close clustered group in the middle there in terms of defensive rating against top 10 offenses. But against everybody else, the middle 10 offenses, they're 5th in defensive rating. The bottom 10 offenses, they're 8th in defensive rating. So yeah, like a little less than stellar against the best of the best, but excellent against everybody else. And I think we can safely say right now that this is a good defensive team. And if they can get their offense back to something passable, even if it's just like 12th or something like that with Barrett coming back and hopefully some shooting regression to the mean the other way, maybe they're going to give themselves at least a chance here to sort of right the ship, just because the defense, like defense travels, defense holds up. And if you can sprinkle in some just more effective offensive process in there, they're going to give themselves a shot. This is not a team that's been cratering on offense and that has been reliant on offense to uphold it all season long. The defense has done some good work for them, and they're going to have it kind of continue that and maybe more as they sort through their offensive issues. Hopefully Barrett can come back and make it so they're just not like, again, the worst offense in basketball over the last month or so. The bad, like we said this on Friday, building off Friday's podcast with Wolf on, the guard play is just not cutting it right now. I dug into the Quickley thing at length in the previous segment. For the love of God, though, I'd love to see nothing more than to see the front office like overreact to years of not having enough guard play and do something before the deadline to bring in another guard. Like they're just kind of skirting by with the bare minimum right now, and Quickley is not even at his full self because his pick and roll partner is not there. And so you have that plus Jamal Shed, bless his heart, just being asked to do way too much as a guy who projects to be a very good backup point guard with offensive limitations. He's being asked to kind of overcome those offensive limitations in a pretty important role in some pretty big minutes. And it's just not quite working. Quickley's in a funk on top of not quite having his full repertoire available to him. He's not a great individual advantage creator. And yeah, there's just the offensive juice from the guards is just not there right now. And it was a real story of the weekend, not to mention the Triforce of Nothingness, Gradey, Walter, Ochai. You just, to not be getting anything from those guys is a real bummer. And, you know, hopefully they can turn it around. It started off great with those guys. Like they were awesome for the first stretch. At least Walter and Dick were in kind of trade-off, you know, fashion, with Shed looking really good too. The bench looked like something. And obviously you lose RJ, the depth gets spread thin. Bench guys become starters, and the whole, again, equilibrium is the word I keep using. The equilibrium of this team is so off right now. And hopefully RJ coming back can reestablish some sort of pecking order with the bench and sort of comfort in roles for guys as well. Like, is Poeltl just going to be out for a while now? Again, we'll hear probably later today, maybe by the time this is even up, that or what's gone on with Poeltl in his imaging and where things sit. But like, it's pretty concerning stuff. And do they rush to make some kind of move if he is in fact going to be out a while here? I'm fascinated to hear the results of this imaging, because one way or another, like, this has now become kind of the story of the Raptors season. It sucks. It's a bummer. It's not fun to be talking about this every day, but the longer Poeltl sits out, the more the stress and pressure to find someone to fill those minutes is going to mount as this team tries to get things back on the rails. And like, again, they've performed reasonably well when Poeltl's been out, when he's been off the floor, but it's like a longer term. If it's a longer term concern, then that becomes something they're not quite built for. And then they might have to go and do something a little drastic to go and address. Yeah, it's not great. It's it's really, really tough to see him only play 6 minutes on Sunday, 6 minutes across the last 3 games after playing just 1 game in 9 days. Just really, really dejecting stuff. We're going to leave it there, though. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. We'll be back again on Tuesday with Big V. We might play what's more likely, Doomer edition with Big V tomorrow. That'll be tons of fun. We'll have the Raptors Heat game to talk about Wednesday. After that, we're going to take Christmas Day and Boxing Day off this week. So just 3 shows for you this week, but they'll all be good ones. We'll pack a lot of good stuff for the next 3 days. So thank you so much for rocking with the show. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast, and join the Everydayer Club. $5 a month, $30 for the year gets you access to ad-free episodes of the show each and every day, plus access to a Locked On Discord with Locked On fans from across the continent and world, and a couple other fun perks in there as well. So thank you in advance for signing on up. Helps me out big time. Link in the description of the podcast if you want to do that. LockedOnRaptors.supercast.com if you want to go to that link to sign on up, the landing page, and we will leave it there. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and God, please get healthy, RJ. We miss you. Bye-bye.